The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondell. Tonight, I have one of my favorite actors with us. Eric Nelsen is a multi-Emmy winning and Tony winning actor and producer who's been seen in over 30 television series and has graced the Broadway stage. He is Ennis on the wildly popular 1883 on Paramount Plus. And at age 23, Eric became the youngest producer to win an Emmy Award. So please welcome to the show, Eric Nelsen. Thanks for being with us, Eric.
Hey, Dave. Glad to be here. Thanks so much. And what a great introduction. I wish every day of my life had that introduction when I woke up.
Well, I really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on. And, before I get into some of your work, I know that recently you partnered with Bucking Bull Bourbon, and you're the spokesperson for the brand. And, I'm really excited to hear about this partnership. So why don't we start out with that? So tell us how that happened.
It's a really exciting part of my life right now. It's very rare that, actors and celebrities get to partner with such, incredible companies and brands outside of the entertainment industry. And so when they do, we like to run full force with it. And, we recognize it as an opportunity that's not always there. And so it's funny, actually. I was competing in the celebrity horse cutting competition in Fort Worth, Texas, this year, which they do once a year to benefit the Carity Cancer Foundation.
Okay.
And so it was basically a year. It was 1883 versus Yellowstone.
Oh, wow.
So all the best horse riders of Yellowstone and all the best horse riders of 1883 were competing in this horse cutting competition. And so I was competing. I ended up taking grand champion, first place of the whole thing that night. So it was really exciting for me.
Congrats.
But thank you so much. It was, an honor, especially competing versus some of the, real deal cowboys that we have on our shows. So the actor came in and kind of swept them from under their feet, which is kind of an exciting deal.
Yeah.
But Bucking Bull was one of the sponsors, and in our gift bags that we all received after competing and celebrating that night was a bottle of their bourbon. And so I tried it, and I got to meet the founders, Sarah and Phil, and got to know them pretty well that night, and learn their story. And they were a brand new company, just trying to get off their feet. And I fell in love with them first, and then I tried the bourbon and fell in love with the bourbon. And I was lucky enough that my business manager was with me that night, and so I got to link them up together. And I saw an opportunity that perhaps they might need some help getting launched off the ground, and being that they're kind of on the bottom floor, and I'm a big bourbon guy, and of course Bucking Bull Bourbon ties into the Western lifestyle pretty well, and that's been my fan base of lately. And so it just kind of all seemed to fit. And so we had many meetings, and long story short, we ended up partnering, and they ended up making me kind of the face and brand ambassador of the company. And here we are a bunch of months later, about to launch in April. And it's been an incredible opportunity. And this is a family run and operated bourbon company out of the state of Texas, which is where I live. So there are so many elements of this company that just really hit home for me, and I'm really, really excited to share it with the world.
So launching in April, I mean, that's just right around the corner. And so what is obviously the goal is to have this all over the country and internationally, I would imagine eventually. But so, I mean, I live in Miami. So how do I get this brand in my area, in my neighborhoods? Because I know everybody around the country is going to hear about this. And I got to tell you, the artwork is amazing. I love the artwork, and everything goes into marketing, of course, and, and yourself as well. And, so tell us how there's a kind of a way that we can get this bourbon everywhere.
That was part of it too. I'm glad you touched on the marketing and the label itself, because it really does pop. There's a lot of bright, it's a lot of colors going on the bottle. And, our whole thing was, Phil and Sarah, who created the company, their whole idea behind it was, when you put our bourbon on a shelf next to 10 other bourbons that you've seen your entire life, what is going to make ours stand out? What is going to make somebody grab that? And the color, I think, really, really does a great job at that. And, if the colors don't, what's behind the colors certainly will. And that's, a bull, in like peak form, kind of bucking up. And, it's just attention grabbing, which is really cool. But yeah, so the plan is now we're launching in April. We're going to be available in Texas. We're starting our footprint in Dallas Fort Worth, and then we're going to branch out from there. And then soon we'll be taking launching all over the country. And so I really encourage people to keep up on our website, buckingbullbourbon.com, to find out when that will be expanding outside of Texas. It's these things take a little bit of time, but we're moving very quickly, and so it's not going to take as much time as you'd expect. So I'd say follow our Instagram, Bucking Bull Bourbon, follow our website to just kind of keep track of how quickly we're expanding and when we'll be expanding to which territories. But for now, starting in April, it's going to be all of Texas, and then we're going to be launching out from there.
Well, it sounds incredible. And the website, by the way, is amazing as well. And I encourage everybody to go there, and there's some videos on there. And, again, just, it sounds like a great brand. And I can't wait to get my hands on some as well. So again, best of luck to you and Bucking Bull Bourbon on that. And can't wait to start seeing that marketing as well. So, kudos to you and the team on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this because my wife and I are fans of 1883, Yellowstone as well, and I got to say that this piece of work is so well done. Not just the incredible acting by yourself, and I mean, who doesn't love Sam Elliott? I mean, some of the cast members on this are just amazing. I mean, I gotta say, again, just from top to bottom, just amazing cast, and just so well shot. You got Terry Stewart and Jason Thompson. I mean, who just made this scene kind of come to life. Just the cinematography and everything, the editing, everything that goes into it. And so, talk about your work on that production, because I think that it just it's so well done that it just kind of sucks you in, and then the great performances kind of keep you there. So talk about working on 1883.
It truly was one of those dream come true opportunities for me. I was a massive fan of Yellowstone prior to getting 1883, and so when I found out I had the opportunity to even audition for 1883, it was kind of one of those, okay, I don't care what I have to do, but I can't let this opportunity go by without me grabbing onto it. So I put a lot of pressure on myself from the very start of the audition process to do whatever I could to get on this job. And I will say, I've been doing this career over 17 years now, which is crazy because I'm still only 31 years old, but I started when I was younger. And this was one of the first shows, I think maybe even the first show I can say my entire family, from the young ones to the old ones, all enjoyed as a whole. A lot of I worked on soap operas back in the day, and that was pretty much just the housewives and, our mothers watched those shows. And then the cop shows I worked on, just the guys like those shows. But this was one, Taylor Sheridan, who created Yellowstone, did an incredible job at really grasping a fan base of not just the new young generation, but the old generation and everybody in between. And so for me to finally get to work on a show that my entire family could sit down and watch together and be a fan of was the first check mark. And I was a huge fan, the second check mark. And then when you just look at the way Taylor produces and creates his content, it's such authenticity, and there's such, attention to detail and specificity and everything he's talking about. He's either lived out in his own life experiences or has done so much research that every little tiny thing is nuanced to 110th degree. And 1883 was definitely a result of the same thing. And it truly was just a mind-blowing experience from beginning to end. And I will say, oftentimes when we're filming movies and TV shows in Hollywood, we're on the back of a studio lot, right? We're in the back of Paramount Studios pretending like we're in Chicago when we're filming an episode, or pretending like, we're on the beach in Italy when really we're just right there on a studio lot. What Taylor Sheridan does, he takes the story and we get to film exactly where the story is taking place. So if we're on the plains of Texas talking about being on the trail, we are filming it in the exact location that these pioneers and, Western forefront, cowboys were actually living. So that was pretty spectacular. And each day it just kind of took it to a more believable level just by the fact that we got to be where this story took place. And, working with people like Sam Elliott and Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, Billy Bob Thornton, even got to hang out with Tom Hanks for a little bit on set. It was just, every day, my co-stars and I would look at each other and be like, how does it get any better than this?
Yeah.
And then the next day it would just top it. It was
Yeah.
it was an experience I'll never forget and forever be grateful for. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed, and I have an eye for detail, and it drives my wife crazy. But I look at continuity and things like that. But just down even to the buttons on the wardrobe. I mean, everything was so authentic in this thing, and it just really put you there. And that's one thing I think I was the most impressed with, and obviously the performances. But when you look at something and you can't find anything wrong with it, the authenticity of it, and like you said, it puts you there. If you film there, it happened there, you film there, and you're not on a set. I mean, it's just amazing. You could tell just by watching it that you were out where it really happened, and just an amazing production. Again, you knocked it out of the park in that, and just, I mean, great work on that. For just your acting ability is just amazing. I've always liked your acting since we talked before we started recording that I saw you in 13 years ago on Broadway. And, just from then on, we followed your career. So again, just great job on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, you touched on it a little bit, but our costume designer, Janie Bryant, I just want to give her a shout out because every piece of clothing you see on the show, she handmade and
crazy.
completely tailored it to the time period. So it really was top to bottom, just the best of the best.
There's a couple other productions that you either recently wrapped or in production, but Holly by Nightfall is supposed to be a comedy / drama. So I don't know how much you can talk about that, but you also have Shaky Grounds is in post production right now. So talk about those two pieces that you just finished.
So Holly by Nightfall was a film I actually got to shoot in Houston, Texas, so not too far from where we are over in Fort Worth, which was a lot of fun. And, that was a unique piece because the entire cast was a young ensemble cast of the exact same age. We were all late 20s, early 30s. So that doesn't happen often where, your entire cast of actors are the same age at a very specific age, in life, us being early 30s. And that's kind of what the movie kind of follows is the different paths and, different almost quarter life crises that can happen at an age, in your early 30s. And, it's a great touching movie. Houston's the landscape, and Andy Delaney was our director, and he's a big time music video director. So his creativity and his eye for our, finding the smallest, most mundane things and making them creative and beautiful and artistic was really, really fun to experience. So that's going to be a great movie. And Jack Falahy from How to Get Away with Murder, and we had a bunch of other great actors on it. And then Shaky Grounds, on the other hand, was a rock and roll, love, basically romance. I get to play this up and coming young rock star who's coming up in the music industry. And so I learned and got to play electric guitar in the movie. I actually perform and sing 3 songs in the film.
Wow.
It was my first time getting to sing on a soundtrack of a movie, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I got to channel my Eddie Vedder, Kurt Cobain, Machine Gun Kelly vibes for that one, and that was a blast. We shot it in Bentonville, Arkansas for a little over a month. And so I'm kind of getting fortunate that I'm getting kind of these polar opposite characters coming at me since 1883, and getting to really broaden my horizon and scope of characters as an actor. I can't tell you how many extras. We had scenes where I was playing in concerts and Shaky Grounds because I'm a rock star and I'm the singer and the lead front man, and we had just hundreds and hundreds of extras in all the concert scenes, and they'd all want pictures and came up to me like, I can't believe you're the same guy from 1883. This is nothing like what you just did on TV. And,
yeah, right.
I would just kind of smile and be like, well, that's the dream, man. Cause that's what we're in this to do, is just to transform and get lost in different characters. And so I've I've gotten to do that, and it's been just, too much fun.
Yeah, talk about being 23 and getting an Emmy award, because I mean, there's so many people out there in the industry that haven't even been nominated for an Emmy award, and you had one at 23. So what was that feeling like when your name was called and you got to get that Emmy award?
It's pretty surreal. At the time, I didn't realize the magnitude's the wrong word, but I guess I didn't realize the history that I was making, because at the time I just thought I was winning. And then after I won, I had an interview and they were like, "How does it feel to become the youngest ever Emmy Award winning producer in the history of television?" And that's when it really sunk in, because I had no idea that I was even nominated to possibly set history in that way. And that was a really surreal moment, and I'll never forget it, and it still holds true to this day, almost 10 years later. I don't know if it'll ever be beat. Maybe it will, but I wasn't in it to set a record. I was just in it to really put my heart and soul into a project that ended up getting recognized, which that was the first, unexpected, just gift, was being recognized. And then to win was just another unexpected gift that really elevated things. And then to find out it was history in the making was just,
Yeah.
it was surreal. And it's still a pinch me thing. But I never go into things expecting anything from it, but I do know that I'm pouring my heart and soul into my every one of my projects. And when things get recognized like that, it just really makes it that much more worth it, and that much more special.
Yeah, I know you have a couple other Emmys and a Tony Award as well. And, I think, and I got the opportunity to interview your wife, who's a voiceover artist and incredible actress herself, and Sainty. And, both of you, just interviewing you both and seeing other interviews that you've done, you're both very grounded, and you're both very, I think, appreciative of what you have. And in this industry, I think it's great to see that, because we have a lot of young artists that listen, actors, singers, and people that are maybe in college or in film school. But talk about the importance of staying grounded, because this industry can be tough, and it can be ruthless, and if you're not careful, it can eat you alive. And so talk about the importance of, again, staying positive and staying grounded, and that type of thing in this business.
Well, it's extremely important, because it seems like the biggest industry in the world, but it's really the smallest industry in the world, because 1% of actors trying to make it work as a profession, as a career, are the ones that are actually doing it. And so the circle's very small, and who you meet today will most certainly be who you work with tomorrow. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Whether it's the guy holding your boom stand on a set, or the actor you're in scenes with, or the extra who's walking by in the background shot that you don't even really realize is there until 3 years from then they're your co-star on a series. These are all things that happen all the time in our industry. And so, I always say what goes around comes around. And if you are good to people you work with, and you have a good head on your shoulders, and you are appreciative of the work you're given, because so many people would die to be in your shoes, good things will happen, and you'll have a good reputation, and people are going to want to work with you. And it goes the same, on the opposite end of the spectrum. If you're not nice to one person on set, it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day or things went south or whatever, people are going to hear about it, people are going to talk about it, and it's going to come back, and at some point in your career it's going to bite you in the ass. And that, is a reality check a lot of actors have to face at some point in their career. And so it's just, it doesn't it doesn't take any more energy to be nice than it does to not be nice. So why not just be nice? The business we're in is an extremely difficult industry. And so to say you're a working actor is a gift within itself, and we've got to be grateful for every second of it. And a lot of the times, our crew members are working 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-hour days. They're there before we show up as an actor. They're there when we leave. And, those are the people you really need to take care of. And, the extras that are getting paid, a lot less than you are as a principal actor, who are there longer hours and not necessarily, get the amenities that you're getting as a principal actor. Those are the people that need to be taken care of. It's the people that, just because you don't have scenes with them, or just because you're not necessarily interacting with them as your primary person on set, does not mean that they should be ignored or not treated better, if and at least the same as how you would treat anyone you loved in your life and appreciated. Because we're all there to make a project. We're there to make a successful movie or a successful TV show. And all we are, the only reason we're putting in the work and signing onto a project is because we want it to be a success. We want it to be seen. We want it to be successful, and we want to do our work. And everybody else is feeling that same way on set. So if we can all just lift each other up, it's going to make for a much more positive experience. And ultimately, again, we'll come around and people will hear about it. So I've always been of the, mindset, as my wife has, of you just treat people well and you're just grateful for the opportunity to be there. Everything else is a perk, and things will work out. Things will work out. But I'm going to warn you, as I said, I'm going to say it again. Everybody talks in this industry. So any young professionals wanting to get into this industry, you treat that person serving you your food, you treat that person walking by in the background of your shot, you treat Steven Spielberg the exact same. There's no hierarchy here. Make everybody feel important. Make everybody know that you're appreciative of their opportunity and job, just as they are of you. And that is the greatest piece of advice I could give somebody in this industry, because it's going to come back.
So well said. Everything you said is just nail on the head. I mean, I appreciate that too, because like I said, our listeners they give me a lot of feedback after each of our shows. And one of the things that they appreciate the most is that advice that you just gave. Because I think, like you said, it could be the person that's running the receptionist at the casting company. It could be the casting director someday. And everything you just said was just spot on. So thank you for that. Before we go, I'm going to ask you this question. I ask everybody this question, but when it's all said and done, Eric, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to think of when they think of Eric Nelsen?
I bet you get a lot of pauses when you ask that question.
I do.
It's
Every time.
It's a deep one. Personally, for me, it's all about my family. I've got two little ones, and there's a lot of sacrifices that go into being in this industry. I'm gone. When I'm away filming a movie, Daddy's gone for 5 weeks, or however many weeks. And so they have to, and they're still young now, but they're coming to, slowly to the realization of what I do for a career. And, there's a lot of sacrifices at home I have to make in order to do what I love to do. So first and foremost, I hope my kids will be proud of me and understand, all the work and hours I've been putting into this is, for something I'm not only just extremely passionate and in love with, but, just shows them that their dreams can come true, because this has been a dream of mine. So I hope I inspire them to follow their dreams. And then at the end of the day, this is kind of tying into the whole being nice to people on set thing, but, I just hope, I can leave one day and people say that, what a joy he was to have on set, what a giving actor, what a giving person. And I don't ever want anyone to that I come in contact with to not think that I am fully invested in what I'm doing and who they are if I come in contact with somebody. And so I guess just giving the gift of respect and appreciation. And if I leave and people are saying that that's the type of person I was and am and left a footprint on, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's great. Eric, I can't, I'm just really honored to have you on the show. I can't thank you enough for taking the time tonight to be on the show. And, anything we can do to promote anything that you're doing, let us know. You're always welcome on the show. And anything we can do to help Bucking Bull Bourbon as well.
Thank you. I will say, for any of the fans listening or anybody listening, I'm very active on my Instagram at Eric Nelsen Official. Please, give me a follow, write to me. I try to respond to every single person that comes on and comments or writes to me. So very responsive on there, and I love to hear from people. And as I said, Bucking Bull Bourbon on Instagram as well. We'll be having lots of updates, and I want to hear from you guys. And if you listen to this podcast and something I was able to touch you in a certain way, or you heard something that might have moved you or changed you in any certain way, write to me on Instagram. Let me know about it, because I'd love to hear that stuff.
Appreciate that. Thank you again, Eric. And my best to you and all your projects that you have coming forward. And can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you so much, Eric.
Dave, thank you. I really appreciate it.